again, it is Startup and Innovators on the Atlantic Discuss channel. You know what we do? We bring expert, inventors, business startup, idealists, innovators. That's a keyword, innovators. People that distinguish themselves in their careers, they've showed a niche for doing things correctly. Yes, when you're a startup, it doesn't always work out all the time, even though the idea could be novel, the idea could be fantastic, but it is what it is. But what we do, we must showcase them. You never know. Some might need some funding, some might need partnerships, some might need friends, Some might have ideas that you two have had for a very long time and you stopped where they started, and they could have stopped where you were about to start. So there could be synergy, in the corporate world, they call it mergers and acquisition, but then everybody needs help. But we have a moral obligation to showcase every Black person, African, strategically Nigerian, who are doing very well in their trade, in their profession. And why is it so? Nigeria is the largest concentration of Black people on the face of the planet. 1 out of every 4 sub-Saharan African, they say, is in Nigeria. 1 out of every 6 Black person on the whole planet is in Nigeria. So why not? Let's see what they can do. And that's why today we bring to you Toks Shopeju. Toks, welcome to the Startup and Innovators show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be on your channel. So thank you.
We're excited to have you also. I mean, you come so highly recommended, and with all the things you've done, and for our viewers, Toks here is a data and technology leader with a background in electrical and computer engineering. Yeah, we're back to that area again. They're always very special people, considering where the world is going. And he has ongoing graduate studies in generative AI. Now, that is the future. So that makes him even more interesting. His career has spanned field engineering, data engineering, cloud migration, Power BI, Microsoft Fabric, Azure, Synapse, and enterprise analytics. So your guess is as good as mine. He's going to be a very interesting person to have to talk to. He has built and supported technical solutions across United States, India, Scotland, and Dubai. I mean, this clearly gives him global perspective on technology, operations, business, problem solving. And in his current role, he leads data operations for a national organization, helping them turn complex data into reliable insight that supports better decisions. So Toks is passionate about tech, clearly, startups, business innovation. Those are my keywords. I like that. And mentoring people. Fantastic. You don't keep it all to yourself. And that passion was shaped early by his father, a professor and activist, and his mom, a business leader, who both modeled the importance of knowledge, service, enterprise, and impact on him. That's why he has come out good, plenty to show, fantastic heritage and legacy. Toks Shopeju, welcome to Startup and Innovators once more.
Thank you. Thank you again.
Yeah, I know clearly what I've said is a summary. So I'm going to allow you to tell your story yourself. Tell us how you got here, your background. Most people I talk to, like the lady I had last week, she said she got admission to study law, and something told her that she was doing the wrong thing, and in the same university, she changed and went to the language department and decided to study Portuguese and a law to Portuguese. And, today she has a lot to show for it. So I'm sure, I don't know your story, only you can tell it. Over to you, Toks.
All right. Thank you again. Thank you for having me. Just to tell a little bit about myself, when I was born, my parents were doing their undergrad, graduate, and graduate research. My mom is a journalist, so she had worked for, back in the day, she had worked for OGTV in the US. She wrote for the Daily Iowan, which was the newspaper for the University of Iowa. And my father was working on his graduate studies at the University of Iowa. So he's a sociologist, criminologist, and he also focused on things like early childhood development and education. So he's an education expert, and he used to when we moved to Nigeria right after his PhD. He did quite a few, worked at a few different companies. He worked for MAMSA, which was in the 80s, and then he moved to the University of Agriculture of Abeokuta. UNAB, as it was called then, is now called FUNAB. And so I took an interest in research. Actually, my first time going to Nigeria was while my dad was doing research for his PhD. And so I still remember those days. And my whole life, I've seen my parents do research. And so I took a lot of liking into the things that my dad did when even from when I was born till now. And that has really driven me. So engineering and my desire to ask questions why, right? My parents, grandparents never stopped me from asking questions, and they did their best to answer the questions that that I have. And so I learned from an early age about the scientific method, and my dad used to code even back in the 80s. And so I remember reading his algorithm books, and they were, interesting to me. They had nice graphics in those days. And so I took interest in mechanical things, in technology, in research, in sociology, in criminology, in history, and a lot of other things like that. And so the solution for me, and my mother's father was a mathematics teacher and then also became an accountant. So these are backgrounds that really inspired me to want to do the best that I can. I'm kind of a black sheep. Most of my family were into business, and obviously some are economists, some are bankers. My mother was a banker. But at a certain age, I just, really wanted to do engineering, and my parents agreed to allow me to go the science route. And so I've been working very hard. One of the things they told me was that if you are going to do sciences, you have to excel in it. And they helped me and inspired me to do everything that I can to be the best in technology. So that's kind of what drives me. And I definitely am driven by the need to give back, right? I remember reading through Obafemi Awolowo's biography and how he had a background in Abeokuta, which is where I hail from, and the experiences and the hardships that he had inspired him to develop the Western region and Nigeria into largely an education-based region that it is today. And I'm trying to find a way to take the skills and the desires that I have in technology and help to develop Nigeria using technology, using the cloud, and using the free tools that are available today. Knowledge has never been as cheap as it is right now, or the ability to gain knowledge has never been as cheap and democratized as it is right now. So that's a quick introduction about me. Thank you.
Fantastic, fantastic. Yeah, I like the fact that you referenced where you're from. You're from Abeokuta, like myself. And you also attended the Great Abeokuta Grammar School.
Yeah, yes, I did. That's the Fumilayo Ransom Kuti, Ayo Ransom Kuti, Fela Kuti, Beko Kuti's and I think Wally Shenka was there for a while as well.
The great people, all the great people. I tell people that in my own journey, I always tell people that the core knowledge I absorbed in life, my foundation, everything was Abeokuta Grammar School. And by the time I left Abeokuta Grammar School, I was formed. You understand?
Correct.
I had a biology teacher that was Filipino, chemistry teacher, I think he was Ghanaian or something, and there was almost nothing I learned in that school that I've forgotten, I mean, it's especially on the academics, I can still draw oxygen circle, nitrogen circle. I remember reading about you, all those kind of things. So it's a fantastic heritage. Yeah, you have even, showed more flair there, and I don't think you're a black sheep, even though you're not in business. You're in an area where you are excelling, which is good. So now, what have you been up to? Are you just a career person? Are you just a career man? Are you just working? Are you a lecturer? you mentioned something about mentoring and all that. Do you teach? So what has been the innovative part of your journey thus far?
Okay, so I wear many hats. I'm a Christian. That's very important to me. I don't believe that you should separate your faith
Mm,
from from other parts of your life. And so, if I like technology, if I
mm,
like history, if
mm,
I like criminology, sociology, it
mhm,
shouldn't be apart from my faith. And so, I don't see them as being separate, right? So I just want to throw that in there.
mhm,
Now, things that I've been doing, one thing that I've been passionate about is mentorship. And so this morning, I started a four weekend course, mentoring people in data analytics. So I started the first session this morning. So it was about 6 a.m. Houston time, 12 p.m. Nigerian time. And so I had that today, got really good response, and I covered data analytics, just the beginning parts of it. And the next session is going to be a hands-on session focusing on importing data into a data analytics tool. The tool we'll be using will be Microsoft Power BI.
mm,
I've been using Microsoft Power BI specifically since 2017.
mm,
Okay, so let's segue into other things that I've done.
mm,
I worked as a drilling optimization engineer
mhm.
at Halliburton, and I worked at Halliburton for about 7.5 years.
Wow.
Now, at that point, I would travel to different parts of the world and build drilling optimization centers from scratch. So we built one for GDF Suez. We
Mm,
built one for Adani in India. I built one I built one at Halliburton where we were monitoring wells being drilled by all of the oil majors. I won't mention the name specifically, but the majors that are drilling in Nigeria, many parts of the world. I built a drilling optimization center to support wells that they were drilling. We also built the first deep water and land data warehouse for to analyze analog wells and view those in Power BI. So we built that from scratch. That required us pulling data in many cases, literally from CDs or trying to find hard drives, extracting that data,
mhm,
and we used an ETL and we used an ETL tool. An ETL means extract, transform, and load. And we pulled data from multiple wells. We didn't have a budget for that, and so we used an open source tool called Pentaho, specifically Spoon, and we built our first data warehouse even before we even knew really what a data warehouse was. And we presented that data in Power BI, and we used that for optimization. That was something that we actually created for one of our major operators that was having issues, and we taught them how to do that. And we also took that. At that time, I was working for Halliburton Consulting. We took the things that we learned in a tiny room, and that became the standard that Halliburton used and expanded and used for their first data science, data analytics practice that was beyond things they were doing specifically for companies. And so I got trained by Microsoft at that point in time from 2017 to 19. Microsoft sent their PhDs in, and I came up with an idea of an integrated database platform. And basically, what the integrated database platform was is a database that would have data from all of the and PSLs is what they call the divisions at Halliburton. So instead of you having a data warehouse just for drilling, a data warehouse for production, a data warehouse for pipelines, a data warehouse for fracking, you could have one data warehouse that would have the data from all these different parts of the company end to end. So if we were doing a contract for maybe Shell or Chevron, we could service their data needs
mm.
just as one team. So that was a major thing that we did. So that was my introduction, would I say baptism by fire into data analytics. And so we supported companies like Shell, like Chevron, and many other companies as well. So that would be my beginning. And that's kind of what got me kind of addicted to working with data. And then I moved uh, out of oil and gas and oil servicing, and I moved into other companies. So eventually I ended up at Avanade, which is a merge which is a partnership between Accenture and Microsoft. So that's some of the things that I did. And if you have other questions, I can answer.
Yeah, I mean, it's safe to say you're a solution provider.
That's correct.
All right. Okay, so I'm tempted to ask you this. I didn't know I was going to ask this question, but when you said fracking,
yes.
So what's fracking? I mean, I have an idea of what it is.
Okay.
Understand? I mean, because you can't live in America and not hear about fracking.
Right.
Yeah, I know it has to do about oil. I know it's a process about oil, but can you, in layman's terms, tell me?
So I'll first preface
the viewers. Yeah.
So I'll first preface this that oil and gas has many skill sets, right? And so you would have your petrophysicists, you would have your reservoir engineers, and many other engineers that would do things like seismic, run seismic surveys and many other things that they would do before they decide that a field is actually good for drilling. The part where I would generally come in would be before you drill, our data warehouse was one that was used to decide if that well should be drilled, how that well should be drilled, the types of challenges that you would have while drilling. Why is that important? If you're drilling offshore, I would say back as about 2019, some of the rigs cost $500,000 a day just to rent the rig.
Yeah.
Trying to poke a hole at one point, the wrong getting a dry well that could cost you millions of dollars. And so that was what I was focused on. I was, first of all, I was a measuring while drilling, logging while drilling engineer. And so basically from the surface, right, down to maybe 35,000 feet, that was my specialty. Now, after you have finished drilling the well, right, you would case the well. If anybody has seen how a borehole has been drilled, after you finish drilling the well, they would remove the drill pipe from the well, from the borehole, and then they would send in your casing, which would be metal pipes, send that in, and they would cement that casing in there. After they cement it, they would now send in basically a perforating tool, right? And the perforating tool would go down, right, to different parts of the well, and they would have explosives at different points, right? Explosives at different points, and they would explode those charges, and that would basically fracture the rock. They'll fracture the rock, and after they fracture the rock, they would pump sand and different chemicals at very high pressure, right? The problem you have in a well when you need to frack it is that you don't have, I believe it's either porosity or permeability. Basically, when you're fracking, it's not that you have the oil in one spot and you suck it out with a straw, for example. You basically have your natural gas in multiple different points. By different in different segments. And so what those explosive charges would do would crack those rocks and those pockets and allow the oil to flow into.
Okay.
So that's hydraulic fracking. So it definitely requires people who are very skilled. It's a dangerous process if not done correctly. So I wasn't into fracking, I was into drilling. Once we drill and they case the well, then the fracking team would come in. So I only saw the fracking team on the well a few times because by the time fracking had happened, we had left the rig at that point in time. So that's hydraulic fracking. I'm not a fracking engineer, but these are the understandings that I have. So
no, I know. I mean, you mentioned it, and that's why I refer to it. And I know that it's almost impossible for you not to know what it is, even though you don't. It's not your fault. Okay, let's go back to Nigeria. I mean, with your level of expertise in the oil and gas industry, drilling, and all that. I mean, one of the problems with what we had in Nigeria is fuel scarcity.
Right.
Drilling issue, refinery not working, you understand. I know your specialty is, well, it's not in a refinery, because I know you.
Correct. So I was upstream.
Yes. Upstream, yeah, that's what I was going to say, upstream. So, but the issues that upstream related in Nigeria, the issues that downstream related in Nigeria. Yeah. So now, even though you are upstream, you will have knowledge, just like you had of fracking of happen downstream. Now, as a Nigerian, how do you think? Now we have Dangote refinery, which is of course,
Okay,
yeah,
that's true.
yeah, ameliorating, or will I say alleviating some of the difficulties we have. But what do you think we're doing wrong upstream right now, considering, I mean, there are issues of insecurity also, pipeline vandalization and all that. So I'm asking that, do you have a solution? You've been to Dubai, I'm sure you've seen all the Arab countries. You have a fantastic idea of how all producing countries protect their national interests in that. So what advice do you have for Nigeria, in those areas, security, how to maximize our potentials with our crude exports, should we nationalize it? Do we have to have Chevron, Shell, and all those guys? You understand? And possibly, how do you think an NNPC can function better? I know I'm lumping a lot of it, but
So,
you're definitely up to it. Over to you.
so I would say I have an unorthodox solution. We definitely need to
Doesn't
work.
matter. You're an innovator. That's why you're here. Go ahead.
We definitely need to work on security, right?
Mhm.
It's the most important thing. The drilling part is not difficult. The world has been drilling
Mhm.
for over 100 years, and Nigeria is not one of the areas where
Mhm.
it's that difficult to drill. The Gulf, it's much more difficult to drill in the Gulf of Mexico than
Mhm.
it is to drill in Nigeria,
Oh,
right?
wow.
So that's not the challenge. The biggest challenge in Nigeria is security. And for you to solve the problem of security, you need to provide jobs, right? When people have jobs, when people are earning decent wages
Mhm.
and they can see opportunities, right? Then they won't go towards crime, right?
Mhm.
So areas where you have much higher GDP, where people have much higher earning power, regardless of your race or your background,
Mhm.
crime reduces in those areas.
So
So
you
for
sorry to interject you. So you think, for example, people in the Niger Delta, are not well empowered based on the oil that comes out of there.
Yeah, I would say for sure people in the Niger Delta are not well empowered. That goes without saying.
Mhm.
Now, in 2026, the world is mostly online. The cloud is where everything is at right now.
Mhm.
So if we empower people in Nigeria to be able to take advantage of the jobs that are available through the cloud, right? The world is a global village.
Mhm.
That statement has never been as true as it is right now.
Mhm.
If we empower people to be able to get jobs,
Mhm.
right, all they would need is an internet connection and a laptop, right, and stable power, which is not that difficult right now because of
Oh. Mhm.
power and different things, right? Energy availability has also been democratized as well,
Mhm.
right? So for pennies on the dollar, there are ways that we can provide enough energy for people to be able to use a laptop and work online.
Mhm.
If we can give Nigerians the skills that are required to be able to have data analytics, or customer service or SharePoint support or any of the jobs, cybersecurity,
Mhm.
or any of the jobs that are available online. That will help solve the problems of security. I think that's the best solution, right? There's an option of giving a man a fish or teaching a man to fish.
Mhm.
And for me, I think this is a gold mine. This is what India did. My last director was Indian, awesome boss. And one of the things he told me is that Indians or India has a plan, and they had a plan that they've been putting in place since at least the 80s or 90s,
Mhm.
training their youth in technology. And now you can see that many tech companies are being run by people from
Indians,
India.
yeah.
Right? And I believe that Nigerians are some of the most intelligent and capable people on earth.
Mhm.
And this is something that I feel that if we take advantage of that, we will be able to help Nigeria move
Mhm.
from zero to hero in a very short amount of time. So that's my perspective,
Mhm.
that we need to, instead of dealing with the issue of security, really let's deal with the issue of people getting jobs. And this is one of the cheapest ways to provide jobs for people.
I agree with you 100%. Yeah. And I'm happy you mentioned India because my follow-up will have been, do you have an example of a country that's done it?
Correct.
Yeah. And India, has a population of about 1.4, 1.5 billion,
Sure.
And yeah, that's about 7 times the population of Nigeria, So, I mean, I was telling people, we have another program, State of the Nation, where we talk about politics and elections. So I was telling someone that when they vote in India on a Monday, by Tuesday, they know the winner. And it's straightforward. That buttresses what you're saying about technology, they utilize technology and all that and all that. Well, time is ever our friend, but I still have one or two questions for you. So what's the next big thing? What are you up to right now? What?
Okay, so
Hmm.
so one of the things that I'm quite passionate about is training, is mentoring, right? In relation to the question that you were asking me, I have a number of ideas that I'm starting to put in place. I'm starting to work with a few NGOs.
Okay.
And the goal is to train people in Nigeria, right? First of all, we're starting with the Southwest, and the hope is that we can move to other parts of the country and train them to be able to be data analysts, train them to be able to be cloud support cloud support consultants, cybersecurity consultants, and other skills like that. And it's possible to do this for quite cheap. In some cases, no cost to the trainee. And so I have an idea that I'm starting to put starting to put everything in place to be able to do that. So that's a big project for me. Another thing is that at work and on projects that I'm working on my own, apart from work, I'm starting to integrate AI into the things that I do. So if I am building a Power BI report, instead of me just starting and building that myself, I start integrating AI into it from the ground level. AI is helping me to make those designs, and then I'm adding that to every stage of development. And so I'm starting to do that in data engineering, starting to do that with data analytics, and I'm also starting to do that with product development. Some ideas that I've had for a number of times where I was considering outsourcing it to a country like Ukraine, right? Obviously, there's a war there right now. These are things that I'm able to do myself and partner with other people to build these designs. One of the designs that I have in mind is for the automotive industry. So that's one that I'm excited about that I would like to build out this year. So that's one thing that I'm working on apart from my training and mentoring initiative.
Wow, extraordinary, extraordinary. What I can guarantee is that we will partner with you in anything. We will support you. You understand? I mean, we have started already, and the good thing I'm Nigerian too, and from the southwestern part also. So we use what we have to. I mean, it's important to add that this idea will germinate. I know one, two, three other or four, five people are doing similar things in other regions. Some of the guys I will introduce you to subsequently. Mustafa is doing it in Jos and I think Adamawa, and Bima too has something like that in Bauchi. They're IT guys, there are people that AI guys to AI, cybersecurity, inventors also, innovators, clearly. I'm sure you guys can see Nigeria is one way or the other. That's part of what we do, bring people together to inspire people of like minds. But my last question to you is, I'm compelled to ask you this. Do you think you can go into politics in the future? Do you think it's something you consider doing? Because you have wonderful ideas. One of the problems we've had in Nigeria is leadership. Some people say it's followership. I thought too that it was followership, but I think it's leadership. That if you have the right leaders that lead by example, the people will clearly follow suit. I've listened to you before this conversation, and I've thought about it that you know what you want. Imagine you being leadership. You are very empirical in your analysis. You know what you want, and So, is this something you think of in the future? Going to politics?
So I don't see myself as a politician. I do love politics. My dad was an activist and a political commentator, even in the 80s and 2000s. So I love politics, I love history, but I don't see myself getting into politics. I do see myself as somebody who can support government on either side. So whatever the party is that is the ruling party in any state, federal, I would work with anybody. My only interest is in developing Nigeria, empowering Nigeria, getting Nigeria back to what my grandfather and father used to tell me about. Nigeria used to be a country that countries like Dubai and other countries would come to and ask for money. And people would move from countries like Ghana and other countries to Nigeria because they could have a better life there. A lot of people did not want to leave Nigeria. My father didn't want to leave Nigeria. A lot of people didn't want to leave Nigeria. Nigeria was that great and promising. And so that's the interest I have. I want my kids to want to move to Nigeria. I want expats, or, actually, we won't call them expats anymore. I want us to have immigrants from all over the world coming to Nigeria to be part of what is happening. So I don't want us to just have Afrobeats and Nollywood. I want Nigeria to be a tech innovation academics hub where people come to Nigeria and where they can benefit from the Nigerian mind. I believe the greatest resource Nigeria has is the Nigerian mind. Take Nigerians out of Nigeria and they almost always succeed. And so let's change the environment so that they won't have to leave Nigeria to succeed, where other people will be coming to Nigeria so they can succeed like Nigerians are doing all over the world. So.
Oh, wow. I'm short of words, so but I'll tell you something. There's a book I read written by one of my grand politicians. It's called Accidental Public Servant. So even though you are not showing interest, you can end up as an accidental public servant. You never know, so don't worry. If we have to push you when the time comes, we'll do that. So, Toks, thank you for your time. You have
Thank you so much.
you have shown a lot of leadership, and you are ready to give back. I really respect that, and I know the sky is your limit. I wish you well in all your endeavors, and I know that with people like you, the future of Nigeria is very, very, very bright. I buy into that Nigeria will be a technological hub in future. It shouldn't just be Nollywood and Afro, but I agree with that. We have, I mean, you'll be shocked to know that I've spoken to people on this show from Ibadan, and they have a small tech hub there. There's a guy that built an app. He calls it, I've forgotten the name, just for agreements. Any type of agreement, whether rental agreement, this agreement. If you go to that app, they're based in Ibadan. A lot of so. I mean, if Ibadan is there, I can imagine there are a lot of tech activities in Abeokuta and even in Lorin. And recently, I found out that in Jos, there's a lot going on. So, you are, another icing on that cake. And I'm sure with your effort, very soon we'll reach where we're going. We'll get there eventually. Well, it's just a matter of time. And once again, I say thank you, Toks. Thank you for coming to Startup and Innovators. And we'll look forward to having you next time. All right. To all our viewers, that's Toks Shopeju, data analyst, engineer, computer genius, AI guy. He's been around the world. And he said, look, I'm tired of doing everything in India, Dubai, all around the world. I need to give back to my home country, Nigeria, and we need to encourage him. So it's a wrap there. See you all next week. Bye.